Art is subjective. Everyone thinks about it in a different way. We could look at the same image and come up with a different conclusion. And I kind of want to explore that in this series and whatever this becomes. I want to try and take at least 5 pieces of art each week and not critique it in a way of like, I think this is good or these are fine lines, but I want to give my interpretation or my emotional interpretation or thought process that happens and sort of just try and speak aloud of when I look at these pieces, what it makes me think of. Let's just jump right into it. Piece number 1, I found on Twitter by Nishant. I'll share the thing somewhere and what the image looks like. So immediately what this makes me think of is the color purple jumps out to me. It's one of my favorite colors. It's actually, the piece is actually kind of similar to the shirt I'm wearing right now, color scheme wise. So I feel immediately involved for that reason. It feels really like deep. I read some of the words on there, so like, I am nothing more, addicted to the void. I am nothing more than a vessel. Interesting. So what this piece makes me feel is about our anxiety towards being influenced by things. So here it feels like we're being sucked into this computer, into this void, and like we all know what the internet can hold. You can click on one thing and end up being sucked into a wormhole and stay there for hours. Even in just one site, this can happen. I personally binged YouTube. What I think about this piece is down in the bottom right hand corner, you have someone sort of, I imagine they're looking at their phone. They don't look happy. The piece doesn't give off like a happy vibe in that kind of sense that you're feeling like, yay, I love computers. But what it does make me feel is that there's a level of expressionism in feeling trapped, and that you know when you're sort of being led down a certain path, or you can feel when you're being sucked into something, and it's up to us to make that decision of whether we want to carry on going down that wormhole, whether that's going to benefit us, or to go in a different direction and not allow ourselves to get sucked in and go to something else. But overall, I really like this piece, and thank you for making it. The next piece I want to talk about is by Super Freak. It's called Born Slippy. This piece, when I look at it, it catches my eye for the colors and like the brightness and the psychedelicness of things, while also feeling vintage. So it's like, it's pulling me in for that sense. It reminds me of things like Cuphead and like a t-shirt that I actually used to own when I was about 8 years old. It was like a running t-shirt that people would wear in a marathon. It had all of these different colors and different like flowers and fruits and vegetables all over it. It was really cool, but that's kind of what it reminds me of. So it brings me that nostalgic vibe. The other thing that it kind of makes me feel is like the element of feeling lost, even in like chaos, and there could be so much going on, but like that can be overwhelming. Like the character in the middle has like, there's a heart in the top right, and that can represent love. There's like eyes quite in multiple places, which can feel like there's people watching you, or you have eyes on you, you're being observed. This is all what it's making me feel and what I'm kind of taking from it. But if I was this character, I would feel trapped, almost tied to the situation as he physically is around his leg. But you can't help but stay lost in the chaos, because I don't think the chaos ever ends. Even like beyond this image, it seems like the image would continue to go on, regardless of the boundaries of what you can see on the screen. I feel like this would be a never-ending pattern. I like the sense of freedom within it as well. Although the character feels trapped, you can literally go anywhere, and like my eyes are kind of drawn all over the place. They're not really sucked into one specific place. Yes, you get the highlight character in the middle with the face, but if I explore like down to the bottom right, I feel like I'm having a different experience there, as if I went to the bottom left of the image, or if I went to the top left or the top right. It's creating a different atmosphere in all the different places. Like the leaves in the higher left area reminds me of like nature, and it's making me think about the walks that I've been going on to try and get outside more, whereas the gooey sort of sludgy down in the bottom right hand corner makes me think about slime that I made with my niece and nephews. It's interesting how like so many different things can be in one image. Might not be what the artist behind this was thinking about, but it's what I relate to it. Next piece by Dyla Eth. So immediately this piece grabbed me, I think because of the yellow in the middle. I don't know what it is. Maybe the walls, maybe something. I've been exposed to yellow and it catches me and it pulls me in. But the yellow sort of pulled me in, and then I was like lost in this space of not knowing whether I was looking at a mirror image or what I was looking at. So yellow stuck out to me immediately. That was the thing that pulled me in. But what else grabbed me was like the clashing nature of like the curvy lines and the cloud shapes, but then being locked in that are geometric rigid shapes, and how they kind of suck you into the middle with the multiple lines. It's like an optical illusion to like really kind of pull you in. Just gonna zoom into like one of the corners. Yeah, again, like the combination of like the little swirls just underneath the cloud, almost like raindrops or water droplets. It's that flowy kind of nature that then clashes with the rigid like shapes. It does bring me a feeling of vintage style, almost like you would see this kind of thing on like a vintage t-shirt, or in an old vintage shop on like a bunch of wacky kind of style t-shirts. And I think I would buy one. That would be really cool. I think the use of eyes in the clouds is another thing. Like I always think about that, of like eyes just pull you in. But what it really makes me think about is like the cycle and the flow of things. That nothing's ever really smooth, nothing's ever as we want it to go. Even the ladies in there swimming, the fact that they're repeated seems to represent to me that they go around in a loop, that there's like a cycle that never ends. At some points they're at the low going up, and other points they're at the high coming down. Just like the crypto market that we've all been experiencing. But the piece itself is then showing how, although things go round and round, you do also have other aspects to them. Areas are lighter and darker, to me can represent that like some things are easier, some things are harder. That kind of clash in the middle, that there's like some dark coming across the horizontal but light going down the middle, makes me feel about like success or achieving whatever it is you want, or trying to get to this point of realization is not going to be simple as you think it is. There's parts that lead you in, you're like, oh, this part's breezy, but all of a sudden you get met by the opposing thing, which is 10 times harder than anything you've ever been through. So there's always like a test to like keep on going and keep going around the cycle. However, you need to know there's edges and ridges you need to watch out for along the way. This next piece is by AgiHTG on Twitter. And I love this one. Like, I'm immediately sucked in. Like the style, the actual thing, like I really like this piece of art. The more I've looked at it, I've realized that the style is similar to a book I used to read when I was a kid. And these kind of like pygmy characters would be going on this adventure, and you had to choose like, you know, like a multiple choice adventure book, and you had to decide what it was you would do and answer certain questions in certain ways and see if you would get to the end. And the chaos in this image of how busy it is, that there's so much going on, brings that similar kind of thing to my mind. That like you can choose to explore up in space and go up to the top and see what that's all about, or you can get lost in the ocean at the bottom of the bowl, and even go below that, and there's like a tail. So the main thing I take away from this piece is that it's like a representation of everything in life. You have your food bowl, which is you, and that's full of everything, all the people that you know, all the places that you've been, the dreams that you have and the places you want to go, as well as people you've met along the way, you know, like people who are here now, people who are there to come, and things that have happened in the past, I think is represented well here. And yeah, that you just need to grab the chopsticks and dig in, you know? Then the final piece of today's selection was posted by Ramin Nazibov, and is actually by Kumi Yamashita. But immediately this piece takes me back to when I was younger, and I got a bunch of different colored paint pots. And I painted different squares all over my bedroom wall, and they're actually still there now. And I've come to hate them. Like, as time's gone on, I absolutely hate them. But what this kind of makes me think about is the personality behind each square, and that each mark that I've made on the wall actually kind of tells a different story. The color that it uses reflects a different emotion, potentially. Like, who knows? That's kind of what I'm picking into here with this piece. In the same way that, like, the angle of light has been used to give each of these pieces of paper or post-it notes a personality and represent a face, which I think is really cool. I like how it's the paper has been crinkled to create that. I think it represents how none of us are perfect and that we all have our cracks and our folds, and that forms who we are. It's not something to be ashamed of, it's what makes our personality and what makes us a little bit different, because none of us want to be the same. But yeah, mainly this piece, it makes me think about the personality behind the work that we make or the things that we do. Not necessarily whether they went right or wrong, and like we could really feel caught up about something that happens in our life. But depending on how we decide to deal with it and move on is actually going to be the thing that crafts us. The final thing that this makes me think of is perception. So if you were to look at this from a different angle, you might not see those faces. You might not realize that there's a personality behind each one of these squares. And that like time and circumstance is a very important thing, that we have to alter our perception and put ourselves in the best spot to be able to actually see the things that we want to see. So if you wanted to see the faces in this, you have to stand at a certain angle. And just like I'm sure there's a negative situation or there's a situation you could view as negative, you also have the choice to view it as a positive. So it's up to you to decide. Thank you for joining me and looking at those pieces for today. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are about these pieces. Thanks for listening to mine. Let me know down in the comments below. And yeah, if you want your art featured, the best place is probably to hit me up on Twitter. Either tag me in a post when you share your art or comment it in one of mine. And I'll probably see it. But yeah, thanks for joining. Peace.